What feels like it's at the heart of this work for you? What do you what really brings you here? If you were to tell someone that doesn't know anything about this,
Yeah.
why you do this.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to contemplate. I'd say at the heart of the work of this work, of men's work, of gathering in community, of gathering in brotherhood, it's something that we've always done. We've done for millennia, thousands of years. We've sat in a circle beside the fire, speaking, sharing stories, expressing. And in our modern day, we've lost touch with our core essence and with nature, with the earth, with gathering together in brotherhood. And as a result of losing that, we have a very disconnected and a very isolated society that we can see running rampant. We look at the suicide rates of men, extremely high, and how so many men are suffering in silence every single day. And what comes of it when a man steps into a circle like this, when he comes into a place where he can say, hey, that's my brother right there. I can trust this guy, right? Because a lot of men are suffering from this distrust of the masculine, because what has the masculine done on this planet? It's destroyed this planet. It's obliterated. It's oppressed the very essence of who we are. And so how can we come back together and remember what we've always known? And that's the key here, is really, yeah, we got the transformational tools. We're doing all of the things, the breath work, the workshops, working with plant medicine, doing all of the things that will move the energy. But at the end of the day, it's sitting in circle and staring across from your brother and having that profound and deep conversation and inviting in that deeper level of trust and safety that, hey, I know this and I've been here before, and this is the medicine that I need to then go back to my family, to my partner, to my life, to my business, and actually make a difference, So for me, it's multifaceted, but it really comes back down to that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Something that came to mind to me a bunch when dropping into this container was like, if the men's work we're doing here doesn't impact in a positive way the women in our lives and the women of the world, then it's not fully men's work.
It's true.
Like, how would you say you hope for the work that's being done here to land for the women in our lives and in the world?
Well, the feminine, first and foremost, within all of us, the feminine principle, we have the masculine and feminine principle to create the polarity within us, has been extremely oppressed and repressed in every single person, no matter what gender you identify with. That feminine principle has been repressed and oppressed. And therefore, we now see the external manifestation of a world that is in turmoil, and women, the attack on women and the oppression of women and the female for so long, for centuries, has all been a part of the disconnection within ourselves. So really, when we're in this work, it's the expression of rage. Yes, it's the expression of anger. Yes, it's getting the emotion out. Yes, it's wrestling and fucking getting each other. Like, it's that confrontational masculine edge, but it's also equally getting into the heart. It's getting into that place we've lost touch with. Because when we're in touch with the heart, but then we're also then going out into the world and taking inspired action, but yet we're leading from intuition, we're leading from soul, but then we're building the masculine structures and systems that support a better world for women, for our children. That's where the magic is. And so, I see a lot of men that leave this space, and perhaps there's been some ruptures in their relationships or things that have been out of balance, where they can then go back to that relationship, back to their woman if they're in a heterosexual relationship, and have those deeper conversations, be able to lean in, and also then have the brotherhood to be able to support them when they need something, because oftentimes men, I believe, they don't have anybody else but their partner, so they lean way too heavy on that, and it creates a lot of distortion in the relationship. So really, this is creating a harmonious balance, not only internally for the man himself who's at this retreat, but also then going out into the world and in his relationships, in his families, it creates that synergy, that coherence.
Where does the balance of, obviously this is we're embracing a big responsibility as people in the world, but especially as men in the world. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that we are individually taking on responsibility for, and as a collective in this time. How do you balance that with the need for play and fun?
Well, I think where we've gone wrong, and this is not just men, it's all of us, where we've gone wrong, where I've gone wrong, is taking healing so seriously, where we, as a seeker, as someone that has a thirst for, consciousness expanding material and constantly going out and wanting to expand my mind and my heart and my soul, it sometimes becomes that rabbit hole where you go so deep and it's like, man, I've lost the joy of being alive, the simplicity of being in my excitement. Really, at the end of the day, I think a lot of us, especially as men, there's a deep constriction happening internally, right? A tension, a constriction, a resistance, where we're just so wired in this mind state and we're just in these thought loops all the time. And so getting into the body, like a lot of the work that I do is very much grounded and foundational in somatic work, because the body is extremely wise. And so many men have lost touch with their body. I mean, 9 out of 10 men I've talked to, they don't even know what it's like to feel. And so how can we invite feeling? How can we invite movement? How can we invite play back into their lives, into themselves, so that they can go out into the world and be a little bit more flexible, be a little bit more adaptable? It is that, getting out of the rigidness and into more of that free flowing movement of not just your daily life, but just in every single aspect in living in general.
What do you feel like, are there any sort of like archetypal instances that really inspire you, of like people's stories coming through and out of this container?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I've done this work for quite some time, and the men that have come into these containers that have been courageous enough to say yes. I've worked with so many different archetypes of men: businessmen, athletes. I've worked with men who are just getting started on the path or kind of lost in their career. A lot of times what I believe this work does, and what I hope that it does for a lot of men, is that it just sort of reignites that flame for life. That it reignites the flame for truly living and being in service to something greater. Because a lot of us, we've been so conditioned and programmed to do the thing that we think would make us happy and make us money, right? I've done it myself. Go to school, get the master's degree, go work the corporate job, and realize that you're just working for someone else's dream and you're not living your own life. And so my intention and my aspiration would be men that leave this space, that they feel reignited, they feel in their power, and that they're connected to something beyond themselves, so they go out into the world and truly be of service to the whole. Because at the end of the day, coming back to the core foundational principles of the Gene Keys, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? And to be of service to the whole is to be of service to yourself as well, in that process of using your gifts to share and to express and to be lit up by every single day. That for me, to see men walk away and to be able to really carve out a new path, an authentic path, that's powerful.
What I'm sure you're familiar with, like Charles Eisenstein's line of "the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible." Obviously, moving forward in the world altogether, collectively, there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of unknowns to be embraced too. We don't need to know exactly where we're going to move forward towards that. But what would like some of the indicators be of that more beautiful world that you feel in your heart is possible? What sort of vision of a world do you hope to see come to life?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's so many things that come to mind. The first thing that really comes up is that in order to create that more beautiful world, we need to create that beautiful world within ourselves. Because the manifestation of the external world and the world that we see, the world that we perceive, the world that we play in is all a reflection of what is happening inside. So if you don't like the image that you see on the outside, then you better first work on the inside and change what's here, because that is what is creating that manifested reality. And so as we're doing this work, and why the central part of this work is so important is because when we shift our innermost state, when we shift our consciousness by coming into these circles, we can then create and live that life that we desire. And that world that we're co-creating together through our thoughts, through our beliefs, through our actions, well, for me personally, what does that look like? That looks like having the ancient merge with the future and bringing together and gathering together in tribe and community, living off of land, raising children in a way that is nurturing to their passions, to their gifts, that are supportive of women who are the creatrixes, who are the creative force of life itself, and nurture them as they nurture us into our mission as men. You know, it's harmony, it's peace. Now, that might sound like utopia, but again, you know, the higher vision that we hold within ourselves, and the more we do that inner composting, that inner work, we can then begin to see the manifestation of that one breath, one step at a time. And so I'm a big believer that all of that can be true, and that we create our own parallel realities, every single one of us in every given moment. And so with that responsibility, what reality are we creating in every moment? That's up to us.
Yes, brother. Beautiful. Anything else you want to add? Anything alive in your heart in this moment, in this exact container we're in here?
You know, at the end of the day, I think what me as a facilitator, Sean as a facilitator, you know, the beautiful men that I work with and do all different types of work with, you know, we are just vessels in the sense of receiving what needs to be received and then transmitting that in whatever way it needs to be transmitted as guides, right? We're no more special than anybody else here. And what holds us all together is the land, is nature. And without nature, which is a direct reflection of who we are internally, this all wouldn't be possible. Nature is our greatest teacher, and therefore we as men, we as a society, we need to return back to the land, back to the earth, back to the feminine, which is what is holding us, which is what is giving us the gift of being alive here. So having respect and reverence for the land and putting your feet in the soil and really grounding into this experience of being on this beautiful planet that we have, that is really the true work and really what is holding all of this and making all of this possible. So just giving respect and reverence to that.
Yes, brother. Thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.